And welcome, folks, to another edition of the Michigan Recruiting Insider. Another hiatus. Recruiting has been a little quiet. Not a little quiet. It's been a lot quiet. There was actually a game here this fall where there were no visitors. Brice was like, he was at a game. He was like, Sam, you won't believe this. But there are no visitors at this game. There's literally not a single recruiting visitor at this game. There were basketball visitors at the game, though. So there's that.
Yeah.
For basketball. Yep. But there's not a single football recruiting visitor at this game. I don't know that I've seen that in quite some time.
Last year.
That was the case. Last year. Yeah. That was, I remember.
That was a self-imposed ban.
That was self-imposed, right. So, but things are starting to pick up a bit, some intrigue and interest and some moving and the shaking, and storylines are picking up. And here we are with these developments, the Recruiting Insider waking up, and we are here. The crew is back. We got some developments to discuss, and we have an official sponsor for the Recruiting Insider to introduce to you as well. The Michigan Recruiting Insider, brought to you by our friends at Wolverine Boots. Wolverine Boots, a blue-collar company that has gotten behind the Michigan football program and Michigan NIL. You may have seen some of their product line be represented and worn by Michigan football players over the last couple of years, and worn proudly by names that you have seen, like Blake Corum, for instance. You saw wearing Wolverine gear. I actually, you know what? Let me go get a piece of that apparel right now. This was inspired when I saw Blake Corum wear this. I had to get me one.
That's clean. I might need a couple. For fall. Yeah, that's pretty clean for fall. I like that.
Yeah, man. And so now a whole line of apparel from our friends at Wolverine you can get by going to wolverine.com, and I'll put some on the screen for folks to see. And so many Wolverine representatives, and everyone from Colston Loveland to Max Bredesen, who you see on the screen right now, Mason Graham. I mean, a lot of Wolverines that you see representing the Wolverine brand. Will Johnson, Alex Orgy, Benjamin Hall, Donovan Edwards. They have an official championship boot as well that I'll show you in an upcoming episode. So again, the full line of Wolverine boot apparel you can find at wolverine.com. So be sure to check it out. The official sponsor of the Michigan Recruiting Insider. All right. With that, let's go ahead and get into the episode with the best crew in the land when it comes to Michigan recruiting, and proud fans of our Detroit Tigers. See, because I had to, even though we dropped that game, even though we dropped one to the Guardians last night, that just means we got to go down and crap on Ohio. We got to go down to Ohio to crap on Ohio. We're going to go get it. Steve Lorenz, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, that stunk. Would like to have Scooble for game one of a championship series, right? I mean, also thought the Jackson Jobe insertion was kind of an interesting play by Hinch, but either way, what, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, the last thing I thought I'd be doing is watching the Tigers going to clinch a championship series berth. So not complaining too hard. Been a little bit more enjoyable to watch than other sports situations the last month or so. Tigers is great. Can't wait for the game tomorrow. Hopefully they can finish it off and meet up with the Yankees.
Brice Marich, how you doing?
Solid. The Salmon, you've been probably following Detroit sports more than anyone. Is this all-time high with the Lions, Tigers, and like, has this been the best year? Would you say?
It's unbelievable to go from the championship for Michigan to the Lions winning 2 playoff games, knocking on the doorstep of the Super Bowl, to the most unbelievable turnaround in I've never seen a turnaround like what we just saw with the Tigers. Ever. I'm not just talking about in Detroit sports. I'm just like, period. They had less than a 1% chance of making the playoffs. You understand that, right? It's unbelievable. So maybe Michigan recruiting can have a rise like that. I mean, it would be unreal. It would be unreal. I mean, we need some buzz. We need some juice like that, right? We can wish. We can hope. But let's start small. Let's start with things that we can actually see, feel, and touch that are right here in front of us with DB recruiting. So there have been some developments, right? Brice, you have been out to see a young man that we first watched, I want to say, 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago now, when he was at U of D, Elijah Dotson. So give us, let's start with Elijah Dotson and tell us the latest about Elijah, who's at Belleville now, and the latest developments with him.
So Elijah, 6'2", 180. Personally, I'm going to call him an athlete because what you said, Sam, when we first saw him at Reggie Wynn's Rising Star Camp, he was playing wideout and making plays. And then Reggie said, let me try you at DB. Let's just see how that works out. And he looked pretty fluid. He looked pretty good. You know, he was still learning the position, but he looked pretty good. Fast forward a couple years now, he's now committed to Pittsburgh with Archie Collins as his future position coach, who has a pretty good eye for talent. And he's a guy that Michigan was in very good position for before the old staff left. So a couple weeks ago, I got to see him in person, got to talk to him. And I asked him, I said, you know, it seems like Michigan has kind of been picking up things in your recruitment. What would you say in a 0 to 10? Where would that be? He said 9. He said, talk to him about 2 to 3 times a week. Talk to Sharon Moore. Talk to Lamar Morgan. You know, a big thing too is his dad has kind of been picking up those conversations as well with the coaching staff. They went up to the Texas game, and he said he had a great experience. He got to see the DBs. Obviously, he loves, you know, Will Johnson, seeing an in-state guy kind of do his thing. And so, you know, he admitted to me, he said before the old staff left with Coach Klink, they were my number one option. Like, that was the team I was looking at the most. And he's had an offer from Michigan for quite some time. But then the new staff came in. Communication kind of dipped. Didn't really talk to him. They've kind of picked things up. And now he's looking at several other schools, including Michigan. He's looking at LSU, who has his teammate, Bryce Underwood, 5-star quarterback, committed, and Michigan State. He's at Michigan State. Michigan's went from 0 to 9. Michigan State went from 0 to 20. Like, Michigan State's making a huge press for him too, which makes sense, right? So, biggest thing with him, and this is where, Sam, you're going to touch on, was I asked, where do teams see you, right? And he said, for Michigan, they like me at safety, right? And I said, not corner now. He's like, no, it seems like safety right now. Other schools, I want to say Pitt and Michigan State, he said corner and safety. LSU was just safety. The plan is right now, this is the plan for his recruitment. He's still committed to Pitt, but he wants to take a couple more trips to LSU, to Michigan State, back to Michigan. And on these trips, especially the LSU trip, he wants to see how these teams treat him without Brice. You know, that's a big thing. You know, obviously they're going to wine and dine when you have the number one player in America on a trip with you. But he wants to see who really is showing that love, regardless of if Brice is there. So I think that's a big thing. He wants to see scheme. He wants to see development. And he wants to see how he's going to fit into these defenses. So that's all. He's probably going to wait till signing day, he said, to make that final decision if he's going to stick with Pitt or if he's going to pick another school. So I think Michigan's got a lot of time, but it's a matter of, in my opinion, how hard do they push and where exactly are they kind of looking at him, you know?
Yeah. So, hey, look, I get it. I understand. And I would go about it the same way if I were him. You know, you wanna have teams like you on the merits of you and your talent, right? That it's not about your teammates. It's about what you bring to the table. You want to make sure they like you for you, and it's not about what they might be getting in with Brice. And you're right. When we first watched Elijah Dotson, it was at Reggie Wins' Rising Stars camp, and he blew me away at receiver.
Mm-hmm.
At receiver, like he signed up. Reg was like, watch one of my babies at DB, right? At DB, but he is killing it at receiver. And you know, not to get in people's mix over at Belleville, but I mean, he could make a case, but give me some more balls at receiver over at Belleville. I mean,
well, he's playing all three ways.
That's
so
what I'm
they're
saying.
they're trying. They're trying.
Seems like every time they throw the dude the ball, he catches touchdowns. That's what it seems like.
I mean, look at these highlights.
So listen, if I'm Michigan, this is my pitch or my case to Elijah Dotson, and it not being about Brice, right? Because as they are talking to him about being a DB, because I first of all, the talk, and I know the discussion is about safety. Let's be very technical for a moment. While they may be saying the conversation may be about safety, they're talking really what they're saying is nickel. So let's be very specific. He would be a nickel. It would be like Rod Moore. So Rod Moore came in as a nickel and transitioned to safety. That is what the case would be for Elijah Dotson. And that is where the need is for Michigan as well, as they got a couple of safeties in the class, and you know they need a dude who can come in and fill a gap as a possible nickel in this class, and maybe that could be Elijah Dotson. But see, here's the thing to me that makes him so unique, and this is what I would say to him. You have the potential to be a nickel. You have the potential to be a safety. You have the potential to be a corner. You have the potential to be a receiver. We could have needs at any of those positions. We don't know right now where the most pressing of those needs will be. We're going to take you as an athlete, young fella, and we're going to figure it out when you get here. Because we've seen you get down at all of these spots. Because what did I just say, Bryce? I watched this dude get down at receiver. And last I checked, Michigan needs dudes who can get down at receiver. Now, I'm not saying recruit him as a receiver, all right? I'm not saying I'm just saying that I could see this dude being a standout receiver. So because he has that potential, because he could be a standout nickel, because he could be a standout corner, because he could be a standout, I'm just going to take him as an athlete. I'm going to figure it out. I think he has that kind of potential. He has the figure it out potential. He's just a take. That's what he is. He's a take. You say, what is he? A take. He's just a take, Steve Lorenz, in my book.
Any kid that can play multiple positions legitimately, where there's a possibility they could play either side of the ball, in my opinion, should always be recruited as an athlete, as a guy, like you said, Sam, just a program take. Isn't that what Harbaugh used to say? Program takes. Otherwise, you're doing that. You're eliminating the idea of commits having second thoughts, saying, if they're say you're recruiting them at safety, and then your safety commits are like, well, okay, like they're still recruiting guys at my position. Same thing at any of these other spots. You give yourself a lot of wiggle room with guys when you just classify them as legitimate athletes, right? So I've always been hugely in favor, and I agree with you guys. I haven't seen him live, but the film with Dotson at receiver, it wouldn't be a contrived pitch for them to tell him that he could possibly play receiver. I mean, I definitely think he's capable of playing on either side of the ball, but it creates so much wiggle room within your class when you can recruit guys and say, we're not exactly sure where we want you, but we just know you're good enough to play football here. It just eliminates the guys who are bona fide, like defenders, like a Winston and Ivan Taylor, for instance. Those guys are definitely defensive players being recruited at safety. You eliminate guys like that having to wonder, well, wait a minute type stuff, right? You just say you're recruiting you as an athlete who could play 3 different positions. It just does. It does so much for the coaches to be able to kind of piece it together the way they want to piece it together.
Right. Yeah, and that's why you also have to be very, very fine and detailed with your conversation, because that's the talk also with Jordan Young. Jordan Young, the guys they're recruiting right now are nickels who could this is nickels who could maybe transition to safety down the line, but nickels is how they would come in, which is a big time position in this defense, a very pressing position in this defensive backfield. A lot of demands, big time playmakers in this defense. And as we saw with Rod Moore, it got him on the field right away. And eventually he transitioned over into safety. I think Rod Moore would be the nickel right now, frankly. I think he would transition back over to nickel from safety if he were healthy right now. But that could be the trajectory for either of these guys if they were to be in this class, and it would be consistent with what they've told the guys who are in this class. That's why it's very important when you talk about being consistent with what you've also told the guys who are in the class right now too, right? Because you got 2 safeties in the class now. The guys you have remaining on the board, what are you telling them? Hey, we got a couple nickel safeties that you're recruiting to try to add to the fold to round the class out. See if you can add to that mix and round out with a very important piece to the puzzle. If you can get them, we'll see. But that would be my appeal, and hopefully that's appealing enough to try to add them to the mix. Seems like Bryce, they're maybe running third for Jordan Young.
Yeah, all right. Anna Adams, got to see him play. I want to say it was actually last night, and she interviewed him, and he said right now, neck and neck, it's Clemson, NC State. He actually took a visit up to Michigan, I want to say, over the summer. I do remember a very interesting point of our conversation was, who's the biggest thing for you, biggest takeaway? And he said, I've never heard this, but he said he asked Sharon Moore, how do you guys get my parents, family, whoever, friends, to home games and away games? Because that's very important that my family sees me play, basically every game. So I think, and for me, that's telling, because it's like, look at his finalists and look at where Michigan's located. They're the farthest of his finalists. So I don't take it like, I get he's coming up for the Michigan State game. I think that is noteworthy that you're even bringing him in. But at the same time, it's like, this is just my opinion, but is it even worth it? Because 1, you have 2 guys at safety, like we've already noted. 2, you have other viable options that I think are very, very good, in my opinion. And I'm not no coach, but I really like Elijah Dotson, and I like Alex Graham. I know Alex plays more of a corner position, And I talked to him, right? But these are guys that I think if Michigan pushes very hard for, you could have two of the best in-state prospects, right? And again, that can only help you maybe with recruiting other guys, right?
So I think Alex is different. I think Alex fits the corner bill. And
I do too.
Maybe Elijah Dotson can play corner, maybe. But this is why to finish up the Elijah Dotson conversation real quick. This to me is part of my appeal to him, and you hope that this works. Hey man, we gonna let you play wherever it fits, wherever the need is the greatest. Is how we gonna make it work. If the need, if the need is greatest at corner and you can play corner, that's where you're gonna play. If the need is the greatest at receiver and you can play receiver, that's where you're gonna play. We're gonna figure out. You are what you can play. Where we need you, and if you can play it, that's what you are. Because we think you have that kind of ability. Does that work for you? That's what I'm telling that young man. Now, does that appeal to you?
I don't know.
Now, let me say this. Let me say this real quick. Because Archie Collins is my dude. I'm sorry, Archie. I'm sorry to Archie Collins. Hey, people might hate that. You know, because Archie's not. If Archie was still at Michigan State, I wouldn't say that. But Archie's not at Michigan State anymore. So I'm sorry to Archie. But hey, man. Hey, I think Elijah Dotson is a ball player. And I think that when it's an in-state guy who can play multiple positions and you have needs at multiple positions, I think it's a match made in heaven. I think it's a match made in heaven. So, like I said, what is he? I'll get back to what I said before. He's a take. I think he's a take. And if he's a take that happens to maybe play into helping you out with a case for a guy that, if it's me, and we'll get into this in another episode. I've been saying this in other shows all year. I'm never stopping recruiting Bryce Underwood. I don't care what's going on. Until he's on another campus, I'm recruiting Bryce Underwood. And am I recruiting Elijah Dotson because I think it might help me with Bryce Underwood? No. But am I taking advantage of having Elijah Dotson? If I get him, hell yeah. Absolutely, I would. So, man, yeah, I would absolutely use that to my advantage if I have him in the fold. So now, I digress. Let's move back over to Alex Graham. I think it's different. I think Alex Graham is a corner, and I'm with you, Bryce. I think with the need at corner, I think that he is absolutely a guy that, given how things look, I think they have been monitoring him going back to the summer. I think they just wanted to watch and see how things came along. I think he has really moved up the board. I think it's just been a matter of would they push, and I think that's on the verge right now. I think that's trending towards it happening with Michigan. I'm curious what you think.
So that was actually, I think at the time when he first got his Michigan offer a couple of years ago, I might have put in a crystal ball. Like, I was pretty confident. One, he's been to Michigan a handful of times already. Two, he's got plenty of family that have attended the University of Michigan. And three, he tends a very, they're open to schools, but Michigan and Cass Tech have a very friendly relationship. They've seen a lot of guys from that school go on to play in Ann Arbor. So I just looked at that and I was like, this is a kid that's just destined to play in Michigan, right? He just fit. And again, I think it's one of those things where you had different coaches coming and going. You had the flash of Coach Prime. He then commits right? Then he goes down to IMG, and things don't work out there. He's got some injuries. He decides to come back up, and that's where I think he, when we talked, he said, I think Michigan wanted to see what I was going to look like my senior year. Well, obviously he's been killing it. Cass Tech looks really good of him and CJ Sadler in the back end on their defense. And he came up, I want to say, the USC game with his little brother and some family members. And he loved it. He had a great time. And it's ironic, if you could pick one game for a defensive prospect or any prospect really to come for and see so far, it was probably the USC game. That was probably Michigan's best showing, best atmosphere, best everything. And so he really enjoyed that experience. He's thinking about potentially coming back. He's still thinking about other trips. But I've talked to other people, and I just feel pretty confident if Michigan makes a push there, they can flip him away. I'm not saying it's going to for sure happen, but
me neither.
I just think he's a kid, though. And this is, again, my opinion. You have to go all in for one. I think they got Jaden Sanders, who I love. And I think Steve wrote on our board. He's what, in your opinion, like a top 100 player?
I think he's going to keep moving. I think he should keep moving up, but I think he's one of Michigan's most important commitments, to be honest with you, Jaden Sanders. So,
yeah. So here's the thing, Steve. You know they need another corner, and you think about who are the guys they're on: Brandon Finney,
Donovan
Grayson, Donovan Starr, Grayson Littleton. I mean, I feel like on balance, the in-state guy with Michigan ties is the guy they had the best shot at. I mean, it's not to say. I mean, Brandon Finney's been on campus. I think they have a shot. I think he liked it. I think he, even though he saw a loss, there are odds there. There's a chance there, but I just feel like the best chance is at the in-state guy. And that's why I keep saying you push there, and the receptiveness there, and you need a corner. This is why I feel like he's going to be the one when all is said and done. Is probably going to be the one that they wind up with. I think.
Yeah, I mean, are they only going to take? We don't think they'd take 3.
I mean, if they could,
right? I'm just wondering because I would be trying like crazy to take 3 in this class. My opinion, I think Finney is good, kind of almost is good enough. I think they should just keep pushing there no matter what.
Do you think they? What do you think their chances? Or do you think they can get?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's definitely uphill, right? You consider Oregon still in the mix. Penn State, I think, is the other school trying to flip him, right?
Yeah,
and they do really, really well at McDonough. I know historically Penn State does so. So yeah, that'll be, it's definitely an uphill. But of all the kids committed elsewhere, they're still after. Besides Graham, because Graham, like you guys talk about, Graham has the in-state appeal, and I know Allen has said because he was injured last year, didn't really play much at IMG. Allen said he's looked great so far this season, right? That he's really looked awesome. So yeah. But besides Graham, Finney's the other one I would keep going after, really, really hard. I do like Donovan Starr.
Here's the deal, and here's the deal. Let me not shut down the Brandon Finney. I talked to Brian Doan, and he said, "Look, the talk down in the DMV is that Michigan has a better shot than you would think. You would think that Penn State would be running away with Finney." And he said that's not the talk. So I don't mean to shut it down, but I don't know. I find myself being more pessimistic these days. Find myself being more pessimistic these days, man.
Totally fair. I mean, again, he's committed to Oregon. I mean, that already kind of makes it an uphill battle in some ways, and then Penn State's undefeated, got a lot of momentum. Their defense is playing great. So, but Michigan has they've done really well in the DMV the last couple cycles anyway. But yeah, he's the thing with Donovan Starr too, real quick, is he's the other one Michigan's pretty hard after that's committed to Auburn. Very random group of schools that they're battling in that one. I believe it's like Vandy and Illinois are the two other programs that are like very heavily involved with him. So kind of an interesting dynamic there. A Tennessee kid committed to Auburn, considering Vandy, Michigan, and whoever I just said. So Illinois. So kind of a weird, on paper, you'd think Michigan would have some kind of advantage there. But again, Auburn, doing Auburn things. So you never really know in some of those situations. That's where it makes it harder than ever to like kind of say, I think Michigan really has a chance to flip this guy. It is a little more hard to make those types of assessments. But again, on paper, Michigan, and again, corners in need. So I got to think that's a huge pull with some of these kids. But yeah, no, Alex Graham has definitely done more than enough to be squarely back on Michigan's radar. And yeah, all those guys, he'd be the one I'd be going hardest for because of the proximity and just his skill level anyway.
Yeah, I think that I think Ron Bellamy's done a great job keeping that one, keeping the iron in the fire. Great relationship with his dad, maintaining that, and then Lamar Morgan kind of jumping in and building the relationship with the kid and his dad over time, getting them on campus in the summer and just kind of growing. And they, the reluctance was they just wanted to see him, get through a season. And, like I said, I rely on Allen a lot. And he said, man, dude, he's looked fantastic. He's looked fantastic. So, yeah. And if you could do it at home, and I kind of wonder in retrospect, and this would be something to kind of ask him and to ask his dad. I wonder in retrospect if going IMG has kind of helped Michigan's case. Why do I say that? Because he went away. You know what I mean? And now he's back. And I wonder if it made him appreciate being back home. Because I can't remember who I was talking to about it the other day. He's like, why would you go to IMG and then come back? I remember when he came back and watched. He came back to watch Cass play in the Michigan's 7-on-7 camp, and he was just there watching the team play, watching his boys play. Like, why are you here? He said, I just wanted to watch my boys. And you could tell he was just missing it. He was just missing his crew, missing his guys, missing his friends, right? And you wonder if, it's something to be said for going and having that experience, being away from home, being in that program. IMG is great. It gives you that college experience away from home and gets you ready. There's no knock against that, but it's also something to be said for doing it at home, doing it at the crib, as they say. And I wonder if that experience being away from home made him appreciate being at home a little bit more. And I wonder if that kind of helps Michigan's case a little bit compared to Colorado, compared to these other schools. So, like I said, I like Michigan's odds. I like their chances a lot more now, especially compared to the rest of the board. Not to say that they don't have a chance with any of these other guys. I think they do. Brandon Finney especially, but Alex Graham even more. Before we skip out receivers, guys, Brice, I know we've been talking a lot about Jamar Browder. Michigan seems to be trending very strongly for this young man. He is a top priority guy for Michigan. It is very clear they want to add some size in this class. What can you tell the folks about the 3-star North Carolina State commit?
So he's your not average looking Michigan wideout. Let's just say that. He's 6'4", 205, big, physical, can high point the ball. He would be like your Nico Collins, essentially, type of wideout, right? And Michigan on their roster hasn't had a guy like that in a few years. You know, I'd say the closest at this point would be a Marion, but that's a guy that's also transitioned from defense to offense. And so, you know, it's funny, and I was thinking about this. When I was talking about Alex Graham coming up for the perfect game to watch Michigan and see a big one in the atmosphere, Jamar probably came up for maybe one of the worst games. He came up for Minnesota. So it was raining. They threw it for, was it 30 yards? He didn't get to see much of a passing offense that day, but he did get to come up with Brady Hart. And I think that was noteworthy because Brady told me that he made a point of emphasis, and they're both Florida guys, that this is going to change. Like, this passing game is not going to, what you saw today is not what you're going to see in a year or two. Like, it's going to look completely different. You are one of the pieces we need. And so I think that was something that was really intriguing to him. And Michigan they're flat out with it. You are one of the difference makers we see in this program. I think that really resonated with him. Coming out of that trip, I feel really, really, really strongly about Michigan. And of all the guys they've offered that have committed elsewhere, he would be my number one pick to flip to Michigan. Now, he is coming back for official for the Oregon game. So he's already planning on coming back. I think at that time, maybe we could see something happen. But until then, I'm fully in favor of him going to Maize and Blue. I just, you know, there's something with him and his skill set that Michigan can sell, because guess what? You're the only one. We don't have another one of you. You know what I mean? Like, you are the guy. But, you know, you talked about Elijah Dotson. He could maybe do a nickel and all this stuff, and we don't have this, right? So I think that's an easy selling point. And I think too, he's also seeing the quarterback play and the future of it. And I think that's very, you know, enticing to him as well.
Yeah, Steve, this one is an easy this one is an easy sell. There is no one like him in Michigan's receiver room right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look historically, it's actually kind of hard to fathom that there's not, right? I mean, going back to like the 90s, Michigan has thrived with big body, high point type receivers for years, and most of the best teams in the country have guys like that, right? So to not have one guy that sort of fits that mold is pretty crazy. And yeah, easiest pitch in the history of pitches. You walk on campus tomorrow, you're one of one on our roster as far as the type of player you are. So, and again, NC State, I don't think they're having a great year. I guess I can't recall off the top of my head. So maybe not a difficult situation in that regard either. As far as flipping. So yeah, kind of a natural fit from multiple standpoints. I feel like they're still kind of going after some other guys that are committed elsewhere too. I think they're going to try to take two, right? I mean, at least two more in this class. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of irons in the fire there. Only a couple who've actually been offered, but yeah, I mean, it's if there's a need in this class, I think receivers got to be close to or at the very top.
Yeah, this one is very clearly a top priority for the head man himself. I think as you sort of watch the season unfold, they have made it very clear that they want to add some size. They want to add some size, some big targets to the board. You kind of saw it with the receiver recruiting earlier, and this is, you go back to how a little bit earlier in the mix, when they were recruiting Derek Meadows, who, by the way, if it's me, I said earlier in the show, earlier in the year, that I would keep my iron in the fire with Bryce Underwood. If I'm gonna keep my iron in the fire with Bryce Underwood, I'm keeping my iron in the fire with Derek Meadows too. And you guys might say, well, that's ridiculous. you're wasting your time. I would waste my time. I would waste my time. I would waste my time with Bryce Underwood. I would waste my time with Derek Meadows. Waste time with 5 stars. If you're going to waste your time with a 5-star receiver who's down, with a 5-star quarterback who's down the street, you'll waste your time with his 5-star top target. That's kind of the point that I'm making. So NC State has no confidence that they're going to be able to keep him in the mix. Michigan trending very much in the mix, even with the current quarterback contingent that they have. Feel like they're going to get him and then continue to try to push to, like you said, Steve. I think they're going to try to push to maybe try to get some more size at the receiver position, even to the extent that it might seem unrealistic with some of the pie in the sky, trying to shake some things loose with maybe some names out there. But at the same time, man, if it's me, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to shake some things free while also with realistic targets like Jamar Browder. I'm going to do that and get that done probably in a not too distant future. And I think that's going to reap some positive dividends with this recruiting class. Where is he ranked right now? Do we have his current ranking? Because I think
he's in around the 700s, but I know for a fact that 24/7 he was one of the recent risers for at least just 24/7 Sports. So obviously our guys, Andrew Ivins, all of them down there, Cooper Patagna, they've been noticing him, so it's not a shocker that Michigan also has noticed him as well. But yeah, they're addressing the size. You look at Jacob Washington, Andrew Marsh,
exactly,
and even look recently. I forgot who it might have been. Chris Hummer. They've already contacted someone in the portal, Donovan McCauley. So it's like,
there you go, getting that size done.
For it. Yep.
Getting that size done. All right, folks. So we'll get the regular mix going. On our way out the door, I want to let you guys know a special event coming up this weekend. Some of the Wolverines are going to be out and about up in St. Ignace, helping out with a special event to benefit Detroit youth. It is called Light Up St. Ignace. All right. You have several Wolverines making their way up to northern Michigan to give of their spare time. So obviously during the week they're practicing. Saturday is their off day where they get a chance to relax a little bit. Some of them are going to take some of that spare time. And I think they're probably going to hop on a plane to head up to St. Ignace and spend a couple of hours just meeting and greeting people up in St. Ignace and, signing some autographs. They're going to spend some time, and it's going to be Will Johnson, Donovan Edwards, Mason Graham, C. Love, Alex Orji, Jay-Sean Barham, Derek Moore, Kenneth Grant, UFC Hall of Famer Chuck Liddell. This is Liliana Ray. You ever seen the movie Top Gun Maverick, guys? This is the daughter from Top Gun Maverick. They're going to be up there meeting and greeting the folks at this special event in St. Ignace tomorrow at this event called Light Up St. Ignace. And at this event, this Light Up meet and greet tomorrow, they're going to be hanging out with the people at this outdoor experience. And with the support from LA Gear, there's going to be this shoe donation. And you're going to have a chance to meet all these celebrities, these Wolverines, these celebrities like Chuck Liddell and Liliana Ray. It's going to be great food, music, and all of these, the proceeds, the shoes, the socks, going to go to kids in Detroit public schools. It is a great event. 50,000 students, over 50,000 students are going to benefit from this. 106 public schools, 50,000 students. This is a great, great event. So again, if you are in Northern Michigan, you live in Northern Michigan, you don't ordinarily have an opportunity to see, feel, touch, hang out with Michigan players. This is your opportunity to do so. So take advantage, get on out, hang out with some Wolverines tomorrow. Hopefully you get a chance to do something you don't ordinarily have a chance to do. I wanted to support the Wolverines, support these guys, giving up their time in a season where, I know it's pretty stressful for them, and yet they're still taking their time to give back. And so I wanted to support them in their effort to do that. So again, get on out to do that tomorrow. The doors open at the event at 3:00 tomorrow. It's going to be Little Bear East, the light up party, 275 Marquette Street in St. Ignace, Michigan. 3:00 are when the doors open. You can get your tickets at the website. There we go. That's the website right there. That's the website right there. So type that website in, folks, and you can get your tickets to go to the light up party, hang out with the Wolverines, and support Detroit Public Schools. All right? There you go. Thanks for watching another edition of the Michigan Recruiting Insider.